Actually, that's when it's time to get back.
It is 6 p.m. and we'll call this workshop to order. If you please rise for the flag salute. And Councilmember Robinson, if you could start us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us at our last workshop. We got a lot of questions from people, and since then have gotten a lot of emails and questions in the community. So opportunity for the council to kind of discuss continuing on with the RFA, and then an opportunity for the public to ask questions and comment as well. This tonight is specifically Cosmopolis. So we're not represented by the Aberdeen and Hoquiam Chiefs or the Hoquiam Finance. So this is specifically based on how our role could be and what impact and hear from the community. We'll try to answer any questions that people might have, and we'll just kind of open it up. I'll just let the council, any comments, questions that you have or concerns?
I can start off. I just appreciate the emails that I got and I had a chance to write back to. I appreciate that because that makes me think about things that I haven't had an opportunity to think about and come up with answers and questions on my own. You know, going into this process, there's a lot of nuance to this plan. And obviously the plan was with Hoquiam and Aberdeen initially, then being brought in later, there's a lot of being caught up to the process. So anyway, I'm just appreciative that we can meet tonight again, 2 weeks in a row, and talk about this.
I'd just like to say this is my first meeting since I was inducted into this panel. I missed last week's. I haven't had a lot of emails or questions about this other than my own, and I think those have been answered adequately at this point for me anyway. So I'm just glad to be here, and hopefully I can learn something also, because I don't know a whole heck of a lot about what's going on. I wasn't part of any of the setup or anything.
I would just like some feedback from the council and as well as the citizens on this meeting about making a list of questions. Because this thing is coming up fast. If we're in, we're out at this point, at least have some type of order to it. So there's, when everybody walks away from here tonight, I think we should have a list of questions and give them to the RFA to answer. So hopefully we can workshop before the next meeting and have answers to those questions. Because I know we had a lot of duplicate questions and so forth at the last meeting. Does that sound fair to you guys? I mean, I think we have to be as organized and orderly about this as possible. And so the first question for me is, what's the rush and what is the possibility of pushing this out, pushing to the April ballot rather than February? Is that something realistic that you think can happen? And I guess I'm saying that to you.
Yeah.
I think that should be the number one question
So
to the RFA is pump the brakes a little bit, let us catch up, give us more time to get educated and have these discussions.
that's something that we've kind of talked about outside. As far as in the RFA planning committee, that's not a conversation that has come up. So I have no idea how the other 6 who aren't Cosmopolis would think about that. I know that their goal has been, ever since the last measure came up and they made the adjustments, their goal has kind of been February. So that seems to be in their mindset. They may be open to things, but it hasn't been broached. The further out it goes, the further out the actual start is. So I think that they want to, it's my feeling that they're looking at February, but it's something we could bring up. I mean,
I think as, I don't think to speak my name, Jared Trent, but I think that Jim's right. I think we would pump the brakes. I think we would get information out to the citizen. I mean, I think that we as Cosmopolis should vote on this independently, just to see if we want to be part of it. Then we come in late. I don't care if it was a seat at the table, being very exceeding not too much. But I think it's important to do that.
and that's something that realistically, the RFA Planning Committee, that they're wanting to know if we're kind of in or out. I mean, kind of get off the pot if we're not looking at that. There's not an RFA Planning Committee official meeting until the day after the next council meeting. So realistically, to bring up that to the RFA Planning Committee, we would need to be a part of the planning committee, which is what we're considering right now. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on that front.
When
Oh.
the council understand everything about this. And so you got most of the citizens in this town, that they don't have a clue. We need to be educated.
Yeah.
You don't want to rush this thing and screw it up.
Yeah, and that's again, I mean,
What if?
Go ahead.
okay, Would it be easier for us to change our council meeting
To have it after or before.
or after the RFA meeting?
the RFA meeting was moved specifically until after our meeting to know if, because the RFA committee needs to have a meeting, but they need to know if it's going to be a 6-person committee or a 9-person committee with Cosmopolis in or out.
So essentially, either way, the council has to decide next week at the regular council meeting.
And if we, like Jerry had said, if this is something that the council says, you know what? Now is not the time to really consider this, we need more time. That's completely open, that the council could say, we don't want to jump in at this time. We lose the opportunity to be a part of the planning process. So we can't ask for what we would want as part of the plan. And we would lose that voice, specifically a Cosmopolis member on the commission. But other than that, nothing would prevent us from doing a solo Cosmopolis vote down the line to join the RFA if that's something that we wanted to do. That a vote, if we're part of it now, that just gives us the opportunity to be a part of the plan. So if we said we want to ensure that there would be more of a presence here, or we want to make sure that whatever, ABC, Cosmopolis has a certain role, that can only be there if it's part of the plan. Or we can try to convince commissioners down the line to change their structure, but. Oh, yeah,
Joe Szymanski. You know, that's part of being on that planning commission. Apparently, it's already planned. What's gonna happen is gonna happen, the coffee there or not. And bigger isn't always better. You're talking 2 big entities against our small community. How much voice do you think we have?
The commission would be a 3-person, if the RFA was all 3 cities. If we all voted on that, that's what happened. The commission would be 1 citizen elected person from each city.
Right.
So that would be 1/3 of the vote. So potentially, depending on who's in and whatever, I mean. Your odds can go either way, right? You're either very convincing and you work together as a team, or.
The majority already did it. If it's a 3-vote commission, that commission's already set up with their planning.
I will say,
Well-
the commission would be made up of independent of. who's been on
elected
the
people.
Planning committee so far.
I understand
Yeah.
that.
So,
Talk of the entities we're dealing and who brought this to the light.
Yeah.
What are they gonna be? You know, we've already been told we're gonna have volunteers in this station, and where are they gonna get them? They're gonna take residents up in the station. From
That's-
who knows where. And where does that leave the city of Cosmo? We already got left hanging by somebody's judgment. You know, and we could rebuild that program again to cover ourselves. And you say, well, okay, if Abby and Hope can pass an RFA, they're gonna pass mutual aid back to us and stuff. Well, the 35 years and I was in this department, we did as much for them as they ever did for us, if not more. You know, so the only way they could really cut us out if they really expand. You know, we put a station here, paid station, which I know the citizens of Cosmos couldn't afford. Or we could go back to a volunteer department. And mutual aid like we always have. That's all I have to say.
As far as, I mean, how much voice we would have. If we continued on, that is the greatest voice that we could have, is 1/3 of it. If we don't, I mean, we're obviously not going to have as much of a voice, but again, we could stay independent and just do it ourselves,
How
but
do you vote to get into the RFA? How are you gonna be independent? They're gonna dictate what's going on.
who's they? The elected officials?
The RFA,
Well, I mean,
their planning and stuff that they've already done is gonna be implemented no matter if we're there or not.
well, yeah, so the plan,
And that's the way it's always, they said, and it confused me too about. Matt, when he was talking about, they wanna add at least 7 people.
Mhm.
But they can't do it unless it's in the plan.
yes,
Well, do you know what's in the plan?
yes.
Does any of you know what's really in the whole plan?
Yeah, well, we're writing it. That's why we're on the planning
What do you
committee.
mean you're writing it? The
So-
plan has already been planned.
No, so 2 months ago, the council voted to put us on the planning committee. So it's myself, Miles and Stana. So in our meetings, we are building the plan. So there's the base model of what the plan is. Now we're changing things. So adding us, saying what we would do, making the different structures, what we want this station to be, how things would work. Everything that the RFA kind of operates under has to be in the plan of formation. So we've been a part of that and putting things in. So
Has
a month,
anybody read the whole plan? That's already there.
well, I would hope that all 3 on the commission,
Voted on?
I would hope that all 3 on the committee have,
Well,
since that's what
I
we,
don't know.
I mean, and it's available to the public.
The town don't know that.
Well, I mean, it's not the final plan as well. This is a working document and the vote, again, the vote that we're considering right now is, do we want to continue being a part of the planning process or take Cosmopolis out altogether?
I'd like to see Cape Cosmos out over there.
Fair enough. Did you have something, Steve? Or just-
Well, I did Steve Davis, the last written plan that's available is July of 21. That's
Yes.
the last written plan. In the last meeting, I asked, will there be a written plan available before the city of Cosmos council votes to be able to join or not join? And we were told, no, that it's a work in progress. And part of the reason is if Cosmos is going to be involved, they would be part of creating the new plan. The one thing that Mr. Spansky had mentioned was hiring staff. And we were told that in the plan, there is no plan to hire new staff. That would be something to be added on later on.
It could be added in this plan as well.
We were told at the last meeting that there is no plan to hire new staff, that would be added later on, but would have to be approved by the voters.
Right, because under the current.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the way I understand it.
Under the
is
July
current-
draft, yeah.
Under the current, what the base frame that we're working off of or have been working off of. This current plan does not add staff. Because on the last two measures that Aberdeen and Hoquiam voted on, they also had the
Benefit charge.
benefit charge on it, which was taken out in this third round.
Right.
So that additional staff was part of that benefit charge.
Well, the article in the Daily World, from a day ago, it says that the main points that were brought up is that the RFA would increase staffing and increase the reach throughout the 3 cities and decrease response time. That was the main deal. So
Who's,
Well, you were at the meeting.
Yeah.
Did you hear that said?
I did, that's the problem is I heard.
well, I don't know what that quote is,
Yeah.
and that's not accurate.
The main reason for the RFA in the beginning was to add staffing. It's always been that, and we all agree.
Well, not just to add staffing, but yes, I agree, that's been a part of it.
One of the main points.
Yeah.
That's been in the RFA has been to add staffing. It's been that way since the beginning, which I think we all agree, we are all understaffed. Cosmopolis point right now, obviously, is way understaffed, but Aberdeen and Hopeman are understaffed. The whole point of the RFA was, let's increase staffing, let's pull together and put that out there. So we have a meeting, the last meeting, they said, we're not gonna increase staffing. The first go around, and we're talking 2 years out, according
That's
to
not-
Chief Matt Miller said 2 years. And the interim chief Golding said maybe a year and a half. We're talking that far out anyway.
That's not accurate. I mean, you're in the right place. So we had talked without taking the benefit charge out. So that would mean that it would combine the resources, but there would not be the added staff. So in our last committee meeting and ongoing discussions, we had talked about, well, this was kind of a portion of planning the RFA to begin with, not only combining resources, but adding additional staff. So we started to look at that, but then it goes in. So if I'm just going to rough the number. So if the $29 charge, if we added 3 more people, it might make it 30. If we added 7 more people, it might make it 31. So we've been looking at what those costs are and if that's something that should be included into the plan that is presented to voters, that voters would have to approve or disapprove, or if that's something that is, should we have the plan that is just to combine resources and then down the line, look at increasing staff.
Right.
That's been an ongoing discussion, but that's not completely dead. That's not, but that also wasn't the entire purpose of it. So as the last draft plan is still without the additional staff, but planning is continuing and that may adjust, but the article is not quite accurate.
Children, as I recall at the last meeting, Matt said neither Hopeman or Aberdeen are understaffed. You're mistaken there, because that's what they said. They have a full staff, both Aberdeen and
Oh, I
Hopeman.
absolutely disagree.
No, that's what they said.
They have their positions filled.
They
Yeah.
have all their positions filled. They've got
Yeah.
full staff.
They have all their budgeted positions filled. I mean, I think every department and every business and everything could use more
But they're
people.
not understaffed. You can't say they're understaffed. They have what they're budgeted
There.
for. So
I mean, yeah, I feel that's gonna be a half of one, 6 a dozen, or half a dozen, six of the other, so.
Not true, Martha. Isn't it true that they explained last time that if they wanted to increase the number of budgeted positions, that might have to go back to the voters for increased funding?
If that happens after formation.
You start out with what you have now, you combine that, and then in 2 years, if things are going well, maybe you go back, and maybe you don't.
Yes. So as it sits right now with no things, that could be it is, but there could be 6 more people in the plan added or not, but we won't know until the final plan is finalized.
Now, who would staff this station here? Would it have to come from Aberdeen and Hoquiam? Or is this the new staffing that you're saying might be required?
That's not been set up. It's not as if let's say, this is a very hypothetical, but let's say the plan includes 6 new people. That doesn't mean that 6 people are here. that, like I said, we've only been in for 2 months and kind of figuring out what's gonna be here, whether it's gonna be the resident program, whether it's gonna be a battalion chief, whether it's gonna be a couple different officers or an EMT or what that is, that's not completely laid out yet. The long-term plan, as it's been discussed in the plan, would be having like a battalion chief oversee training program, EMT volunteer, I forget the word, the live-in resident program, and establish that. But like I said, that's only been even discussed of the possibility realistically for the last 2 months. We had talked to Chief Hubbard about it when he was still doing it, and they had always said that volunteers were a longer term goal for the RFA. This just kind of made it more open because now they have the space, but
Unknown.
until the plan is finalized, we don't have it all laid
That
out.
would be across all of the 3 members of the RFA then, correct?
Well, yeah, there is the budget,
Proportionately?
this
What do
is
you-
what they figure the budget will be during the first RFA vote. And this is what it would be for Cosmopolis and as well as Aberdeen and Hoquiam.
But that
It's the same rate for all 3 cities.
But what,
Staffing's not in there though, right?
no, that would be later.
Yeah,
So if they
staffing,
wanted
This
more,
is only for us to enter into the agreement to get involved, means we can basically.
so
For negotiation purposes, that's what we're looking.
the discussion is, do we want to be a part of the planning and ask for these things or say what we want for this?
We have to say how we're gonna be having the station used, since it's our property. Do we lease it? Do we rent it? What do we do?
It
that would have to be negotiated.
Yeah, the idea is, and the discussions that it would be a city-owned building. And we would probably lease it for $1 a year. I think that's kind of standard, what something.
Whatever it is.
Or, I mean, we could do it for $1,000 a year, whatever, that's to be determined. And then once the RFA has funding either down the line or something, they could purchase it from us, and that's so far down, that they would be using it and serving as the general authority. Yeah.
Didn't they say though they take ownership of everything in the building? That's what I understand.
Well, not the fire truck.
No, because it's paid, they don't
It-
take on bills. But after we pay for it, then it would belong to the RFA, not the city of Cosmopolis.
They would be using it as they are. I mean, they would be the agents.
Ownership, that's the word. you used. That's what I got.
Yes, but the city could also, prior to entering into the agreement, they could decide what they don't want to go with that. If there was something we wanted to retain, we didn't want to give it to the RFA, say we wanted to keep it for the museum or something. The city has the choice to be able to do that before it's voted upon and approved.
Like,
That's
are you
just-
talking about February voting.
Yes, so before it's approved and before the agreement's all done, you could say, we don't want to give X piece of equipment away. There's also the negotiation of what we would want for the building. And who's responsible for maintenance and things like that.
So the new truck, are they gonna be using it?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So then it'll just disappear, go to different station.
Probably, and if they
Unless,
want-
unless it's something that we, again, like put in the plan that it specifically had to stay here. I don't know, I don't know enough about the mechanics of it, if it would be more optimal at one station or the other, that they could move a new vehicle over here or take one out. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if there was something, like we said, if this is something that Cosmopolis residents specifically said, if we go on to this, we want to make sure that whatever it is, the new fire truck stays over here, or that we don't remove any of the chairs, or we don't paint it blue, whatever, these types of things, that could be something that we could dictate in a plan. But we can't ask for that after the fact. I mean, if it did get passed, and so the RFA just was operating as if it was our fire department locally, because they would be, we don't have like the oversight. So anything like that would have to be kind of worked out, negotiated beforehand.
Well, we would have the oversight if Aberdeen and Oakland form an RFA and we chose to join them later. We would put whatever plan we wanted in front of them. And they would accept that plan. We wouldn't have somebody at the table to vote with them. They would have, but we would be able to put our plan forward.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, that's true.
So the main thing with the RFA from the very beginning was about, and they all have mentioned it, is NFPA standards and the lack of appropriate staffing. Hopen was understaffed and underpaid. Aberdeen was understaffed. And so it was all about adding staffing. That was the whole.
I
venture
wouldn't
of the
say
RFA.
all about is a very broad, and that's not an accurate statement. That has been a
One
part of
one
the
main
discussion.
Points with the RFA was to add staffing. It's been that way all the way along. And we all agree that all the cities need extra staffing. We have members in the fire department in Aberdeen, the Chief Golding said, live and commute from north of Everett. So the situation that happened in Montesano last night is relative to this conversation on how lacking we are in our emergency services in Grays Harbor as a rule, as a general rule. They were very fortunate last night that worked out the way it did. It was a huge issue of resources. Had that been a weekend, had it been bad weather, had something else happen in our city, Aberdeen or Hopeland during that period of time, it could have been devastating. We are lacking staffing. They all said it. The point of having our RFA is to put it, so it seems to me that you're gonna slide this thing underneath there and say, we're not gonna add any staffing.
That's
So we get up and running.
that's
then
that's
we're
an
gonna start
option.
having to Stop stepping down the road, maybe.
Or we can add staffing now and ask if the voters want
So is your
staff.
recommendation to add back the benefit charge then, or is it just
My
that?
recommendation is that in the very beginning, the whole point of having an RFA was to increase the staffing.
A portion.
Yeah,
It's not,
more
that is
to it than
not
that.
the whole point.
One
And
of the main features.
that is one
of the
thing that
first
is, that-
plan
yeah,
Was to add staffing.
But that being said, Steve, it
It's
failed
been
twice.
taken out.
yeah.
Correct.
So,
That's why it failed twice.
so that's been taken out. So, yeah, go, sorry.
So it's,
If you're gonna do that, these numbers all change too, you know. They do. Every time you change
So-
that.
yes.
So, I mean, and this entire workshop is again to hear from the community and get insight for the council and everything. So so is your recommendation to increase the funding request to increase staffing if this were to go forward?
My recommendation is that there's a more cohesive written plan.
Well,
established
so,
Before we even decide to enter into it.
well, that's not possible. I mean, if that's something that Cosmopolis residents want, so they want to be sure, let's say, I'm gonna just say that the entire Cosmopolis community, let's say that the majority wants more staffing as part of this. That's not something that I mean, you could go to the other committee members in Aberdeen and Hoquiam and ask for that as well. But if it's not in the plan, we can't do it. If we're not part of the planning process, we can't bring it forward. We can make recommendations, but if that's something that's like a requirement, that if we continue on, we want to see that, then those are the kind of things that we want to hear. So, thank you. Oh, yes.
Carrie, that it was my understanding that the increase in the staffing would be part of it because, for example, we have no staffing. So if it went ahead as is without staffing, does that mean Aberdeen Hopeland covers Cosmopolis? I mean, we have to add staffing. We don't have a.
When they say staffing, they mean permanent union member staff, is
Right,
what that means.
firefighters.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
but that's not counting the volunteer services that are still trying
Okay,
to
but we
build
don't
up.
have any volunteers either.
Right, but under this plan, that would be up to the RFA to build back that program.
a different, a
Cosmopolis.
different program, like a training program, similar to Raymond or, I think South Beach isn't resident, right? No, but a training program to try to get more homegrown and build
And
that.
meanwhile, what happens? Who covers Cosmopolis?
Aberdeen,
The RSA.
Aberdeen or the RFA, similar to Aberdeen.
So when you join into an RFA, it's one big area.
Right.
It's, we don't say, well, that's Hoquiam, only the Hoquiam trucks respond here. This is Aberdeen, only the Aberdeen, and it's one area. You could have, depending on whatever the call structure is, they have it all lined out where if this call goes out in this area, this ambulance responds, this truck rolls behind, et cetera. And it's, the way they explain it to me, it's a better rollout to calls, because then you're not asking for mutual aid, for example, from Cosmopolis or mutual aid from Hoquiam, which there's always a delay in asking in mutual aid when that certain size fire goes out or structure fire, they're already rolling different stations out to it at the same time. And that's, from their planning perspective, that's a big part of it, is that response time gets reduced because it's all one unit. You know, the chief and their battalion chiefs have a plan of how those calls roll out, as opposed to right now where our calls go out, and because of the current contract, Aberdeen automatically goes, but that wasn't always the case. It would, you know, it'd be on a request basis for structure fires and all that. So I think that's the big thing, is that it is one department, therefore they act as one.
You will see a permanent staffing at this station at some point in time?
Under the current plan, this would be volunteer at this, based out of this station.
Yeah, I mean, down the line, that could happen. Like we had spoke with them. It's not as if they could just move the South Aberdeen station and the people here and operate this as like the third station. Just because of the distance, there would have to be a number of things that would need to change in order for more staffing to come here. In the initial startup, they would likely operate with the same type of shifts and schedules they have, and then make adjustments over time. But there's nothing that says within 2 years, there's going to be this many here or that many here or things like that.
So that really wouldn't change anything, because the people responding would have to come from Hoquiam or Aberdeen to come here. So
Usually your first rollout's gonna be from South Aberdeen, unless there's other calls happening at the same time, just like what's happening now.
don't we have, so which means with the mutual thing, kind of a mutual, that's what we have right now. South Aberdeen.
Right now, Aberdeen's responding at first tone, so yes.
Yes.
So back to this benefit thing. Okay, so it went for a vote twice, and we have benefits included the first time.
Yes.
The second time they took that staff and part out of the plan.
No, the
No,
second,
it was in the
so,
second vote as
um,
well.
It was in the second, okay, that's what I'm not. doing.
So
They ran the same plan twice.
the.
Oh, I
It
thought
was,
they-
it
So-
was exactly the same both times.
Based on the discussions and talking with Matt and Dave and everything and looking at it. So the first time it went out, it missed by 14 votes. 14 people more would have made passage. So at the time, I think the planning committee said, oh, well, we didn't give enough information and we didn't share enough. So, but it was so close, they ran it again and tried to give more information, and then it failed by more. So then they said, let's do away with that benefit charge. That was the biggest thing I think that people had mentioned, like, what does this mean? Because it was a very confusing kind of setup. So they've taken that out to make it a little more easy for people to understand. And then that's what the new plan is building, is without that benefit charge.
No plan of no new staffing. Is what that means.
As it sits right now.
Right, because it failed.
Yes, there could be more staffing added, but that, as the plan sits, that's not what's in there. There's been discussion, but it's not
Voted on by the
the people.
The people would have to
And,
vote on that.
and the council. So if the planning were to continue and with Cosmopolis involved, so the timeline would be, we would have meetings and finalize the plan. It would then go before the council before December to say, do we want to approve this plan to go out to voters? Each city has to approve the plan to go out to voters. Then it would be filed in like December 10th, give or take, right in that window, ahead of the February election, when then everyone would get a chance to vote on it. That's the kind of timeline as it sits now. So we've got a couple months before plans are set in stone.
Wait, what if we continue on from December when the plan is all finalized and the council says no? No, we don't like the plan. Are we cutting it clear then? Are we out of it?
No, that would, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
but that would,
All three city councils have to
Yeah.
approve an ordinance,
Within
Put it on
their
the ballot.
city.
right?
Aberdeen and Hoquiam couldn't go out to voters in February if we back out at that point, because they would have to redo the entire plan. So if we vote to move forward now and then backed out, then it would derail the whole thing.
Then what's the plan if it's derailed?
Well, there would have to be a new plan developed, I
Do we
imagine.
have a plan in case it fails?
Well, so And-
It's not in writing, but
Yeah.
yes, they would just take out all the Cosmopolis components and redraft it.
As the RFA Planning Committee, I mean, this is state law for a regional fire authority. That you put together a committee, you make a plan, you put it out to voters. You can do that 3 times before the plan and the committee need to be kind of dissolved and restarted. That being said, there's nothing that says you can't say, okay, we're gonna work off of this draft plan and modify it, and the committee can't be the same people, but it has to be a whole new process. And look at different things. And if it failed again, just like last time, you'd have to look at why did it fail? Was it just the cost, or was it the lack of new people coming in? Was it nobody wanted their whatever equipment to go to Aberdeen, didn't want their equipment to go to Hoquiam, and vice versa? Like, you would have to find out why is this not being approved, and look at it and either find another way or adjust.
Has anybody discussed it not passing? Because I know some of the firemen over there, they don't think it's gonna pass. So I don't understand why why can't we just wait and join later? I don't get why you
That's-
wanna be on a planning board of this, because what does Causey have to bring actually to the table? When you have 2 cities that are running, what do we have? Why do they want us there other than to throw the numbers different? You know,
We're not bringing a ton of money to the table just because of our size and everything. We're not. Yeah, I mean, it is some additional funding and
getting more benefit out of the deal
yeah,
because we are a larger city.
Yeah.
And would you please do me a favor, Kyle, and explain to
Sorry.
people what this volunteer thing is? What I understood was we would have volunteers that would be living here, would be staying here. And they would be being trained by
trainers. I mean,
trainers.
yeah.
So we would have volunteers here 24/7.
it's not as if like February comes and the vote and all of a sudden. But the long-term plan, that would be the long-term goal and the intent.
Would be better, we'd have them there after a while.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Daryl, did you have something? Sorry, I didn't want to.
Yeah, I have to talk by the.
Have at it.
My name is Daryl, I'm a Cosmopolis resident. I've been listening to this process. I think, I just have some, I want to talk out loud, some ideas and things that are kind of going through my brain. I want everybody to know here that I'm in support of collaboration, generally speaking. I work for a regional fire authority. I know that a regional fire authority can do something, and there's lots of benefits to a regional fire authority. I think about the concept of value of what the regional fire authority can bring to the area, to Cosmopolis. And so there's no doubt that this option of
forming a regional fire authority is gonna cost the citizens of Cosmopolis more money than what they're currently paying now. That's just a matter of fact. So the next thing to look at is what problems are we into? And what are we trying to solve? And what type of value does this bring to our little city, Cosmopolis? The problem that we're trying to solve is at this point, the city of Cosmopolis does not have a fire department. It's operational. There's a insurance standard in the state of Washington that requires you to provide that functional service of fire suppression to the city and medical aid. So we're trying to meet that need so that all of our fire insurance rates will be manageable. Currently, the city of Cosmopolis is at 6, which is pretty reasonable for, for a volunteer organization. And so kudos to the city for being able to maintain that. So one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to protect that and decrease the cost or maintain the cost of our fire insurance so that it stays the same or maybe even move and move down. So that's one thing we're trying to do. The city of Cosmopolis has protected the citizens in that way by contracting with Aberdeen to maintain a pretty significant amount of money on a monthly basis to maintain that fire protection coverage, which in lieu still gives you a fire protection service, which still maintains your fire insurance. So that's one thing that's going on, that's good, and cost a lot of money that we're paying the fire department budget to basically another fire department to maintain that. So they did that, that's smart, I believe, for the citizenry. And so historically, since I've lived here, Aberdeen Fire Department has provided advanced medical life support to and BLS transport capability to the residents of Cosmopolis for medical aid. That's something we've always had. We currently pay for it in a pay scale that I don't, that I can't speak to exactly, but I have a basic understanding on how it works. And they provide us medical aid. So we've had that, and we have that now. What has changed is we're providing our fire protection services because we currently don't have an active functional fire department, and they're taking care of that for us. So if a house fire happens next across the street, the city of Aberdeen, based on the contract, is going to respond to your incident just like they would if it's in their jurisdiction with their complement, and they would mitigate that situation. The city's Southside Station is about 2 miles away, and it takes about 3.46 to 3 minutes and 46 seconds to get from there to here. And so that meets the standard for WSRB for the rating bureau. And so you'll still have that same level of coverage either through that contract or through the RFA, even if this fire station is not functioning. But guess what? We have that now. The city is paying the fire budget to the city of Aberdeen with a contract. And we have that level of service now. So your fire insurance is going to stay the same. It'll still be the same level of coverage that you would now. So if you have an RFA, your station stays volunteer. It's going to take a little while for that to get bolstered and up and running and functioning. It's going to take, an average firefighter takes about 16 months or so to get up and trained so that they can function in a full capacity. But the rating bureau is looking for a firefighter. So if you have firefighters on the books, they're going to count how many firefighters are there. They're going to evaluate your training program and things like that, and they'll rate you accordingly. And if they rate you and they're not all at that 16-month level, then the chance of insurance rating will drop. So by not providing staffing here, or have a bolstered program as a volunteer department, that's a risk. The RFA will probably take care of that risk for you. But again, it costs more money. See what else? So again, I'm looking for value. So for me, value is bringing something different than what we currently have at the table. If the RFA is only going to simply say we're going to work on helping the volunteer fire station get better, the city of Cosmopolis is trying to do that now. Right? And so I don't know where they're at in that process. I don't know if they retain, but they're trying to do that now. And so if the RFA is just going to continue to do that, the only benefit that I see right now with the RFA, of course, it costs more money, is that your fire protection is now being taken care of by Central Regional Fire Authority, and they will be providing your fire protection coverage. But that's what they're currently doing now. Except that they can raise your rate, don't have any control of your rate, your contract can go up in price. Which we don't have any control over that because we are a customer of the Aberdeen Fire Department, so that's a risk. And as everybody knows, with inflation and cost, that cost will go up. So I guess by buying in now, you may be saving costs later. So there's just lots of different moving parts on this situation. It's a very important decision. Cosmopolis has a long, strong, good history of volunteer fire service. I don't know exactly how it went awry, but, you know, I don't know if they could get there again. But again, collaboration is also a good positive thing. So again, I'm trying to find value. If you do this plan, you pay more money, will you get more value? And I'm not fully convinced yet. Now, if they were to change their staffing model, if they're gonna put staff here in Cosmopolis, if they're gonna put something in the plan that says, hey, in a year and a half time, we're gonna staff it 24 hours a day, or you know, whatever. But as of right now, there's nothing tight in the plan that brings value to me, for the city of Cosmopolis. That's what I.
Thank you, Daryl. Go right ahead.
I'm Jean Bramstead, and I'm just asking for clarification from what Daryl was saying. My question is, okay, we're paying X amount of dollars to Aberdeen for our fire and medical, correct? Okay, if we join this, so all of the people in Quasi are going to be paying in. Will the money that we're paying currently to Aberdeen for the services we're getting now not be, have to be paid?
Yes, so what we pay now is the rate that an Aberdeen resident pays, which is that like 29 and change mark. So if, as it sits right now with Aberdeen covering, if the RFA is formed, the cost would come instead of from the city budget, because the budget would then decline quite a bit through property taxes and everything else. They would be coming from the citizens. So it's not exactly, but it's kind of an even cost savings. It's just where is the money come versus the other, as far as that $29 goes, and the fee that we pay to Aberdeen. Of course, property taxes are taken out and everything, but that $29 that we're paying now per user would just be from the user. Does that make sense?
Yes. So right now, my understanding from what you said is that the burden of the cost will shift to the individual homeowner for our coverage rather than from the city. But we're not really.
We're not gonna pay twice.
Right.
We're not gonna pay twice. That's right.
Right.
We're gonna pay one time. We're gonna pay it in the RFA.
Right.
It's not complicated.
No, that's not complicated now that I understand it. But then my question was going to be about, we were talking about like the facility and the equipment and that kind of thing. So that might be something that we could possibly lose or lose the use of, because it would become communal rather than quasi, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, question. Now,
Oh,
personal
no.
nature, how is this going to affect our individual property insurance? Will it have a positive or negative effect? Yeah.
You're,
Paying more, and how are we rated?
so if our rating went,
Yeah, how is
so
our
we're
rating?
at 6 right now, and correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like this is accurate. So we're at a 6 right now, and is that's the highest at a volunteer
Yes.
department? So if the RFA take over, there we're at 5.
4.3 and 4.6.
So theoretically,
That's Aberdeen.
yeah, if the Central Grace Harbor Regional Fire Authority, if their overall rating, we'll even round it up to 5, then our rating would be 5. If we do not have fire coverage, then our rating could go to 7, and so the property taxes would go up. So every change either way, insurance rates, every change either up or down has the possibility to impact your insurance. as it sits with an all volunteer city run, 6 is where we're at. If it was another option, there's a possibility of going lower, but it could go the other way too. There's nothing that's guaranteed that if we join, your insurance is gonna drop X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
But
Average, best guess is probably won't change all that much, is what you're saying.
I don't know the individual numbers or how much that could, I wouldn't be able to
That's the-
speak.
One of the unknowns again, you know.
Realistic, I mean, if our numbers go down, it could change. How much, I don't know what percentage, but
I think that would be by the individual insurance.
y-
company.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variables and things, and your insurance may not change, but if the rating goes down, I think that most insurance companies have that kind of
As I
factored in.
understood
So,
last time, it would be part of a paid, because of the RFA, there's paid. Paid programs,
Yeah.
so
Uh,
it would make the insurance,
Daryl,
You're correct.
the insurance, your insurance would go down in gen, or should.
do you,
With the RFA.
do you have insight on that because of
I
the,
would say that there's potential for a cost benefit if the rating is able to drop. However, what I do know for a fact is if there is a re-rate that's in place in Cosmopolis' current situation, there will certainly be a drop in rating or a increase in rating, I guess, whatever it says. And there will be a negative cost to the citizens if we are re-rated today. And it could be several hundreds of dollars a year. If that situation comes to arise, not have a appropriate fire protection rating. So that's another thing that we do want to protect.
Steve?
So I'm speaking with the rating bureau in the last week. They've been dragging their feet. Because they're well aware, this is an insurance company, this is an insurance group. They're well aware that our risk has gone up. Because now we're relying on a second entity, even though we're contracted with them. Their first responsibility is their city. We're second to that. So the ratings bureau literally have been dragging their feet, hoping that Cosmopolis can come up with something before they enter into a new rating agreement. It's coming up. It's coming up really close. But Cheryl Turner is exactly correct in, as a paid group is involved, our rating hopefully would stay the same. Insurance rates are going to go up. We all know that. Whether if everything was just normal, your insurance rates is going to go up because they do. But as far as the rating goes, a 6 is the best, but we should be able to slide into a 5, which is a better rating for our community. But right now, contractually with Aberdeen, we are the second too. We are not their first priority. That said, all of those people involved in the department will do their very best to cover this. They will do their very, very best. But their city is their first responsibility. We're secondary to that. So speaking on that, speaking with what Mr. Brown had mentioned, I agree, and the value is really what we're looking for. The exception that I have is, are we really trying to reestablish a volunteer fire department and where we're at with that? But that's for a whole other subject. But Mr. Johnson, Steve Johnson, had made a point, and if this is correct, so I want a point of clarification. So right now, if the city council voted, let's be part of this. We vote, the city council votes that yes, we want to be part of the RFA, and we go forward with the planning operation. All 3 cities have to agree, so all 3 councils have to agree to the plan. So if there's a plan out there and Aberdeen Open say, yep, that's the one for us, and Cosmopolis Council says, you know what, it's not quite, we're not, no. My question is, are we still obligated to be in that RFA? We're not.
No,
The vote would just be to be on the planning committee.
Okay, so with that said,
I mean, the same thing if Kazi and Holcomb said, we love the plan, and Aberdeen said, nah, you know what, it's not for us. The same scenario.
yeah, all 3 cities have.
all 3 cities have to agree. So in that case, what we're working on is really a moot point in my book. We should vote, the city council should vote to be a part of this planning commission. And then if the plan doesn't come up to par, then the city council should vote against the plan, thus taking us out of that RFA option. Is that correct?
That's an option, yeah.
Well, that's basically how it works,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
I was gonna say the same thing, Steve. I did not know that we had another crack
I
at.
was told we weren't, and I was told it was absolutely
Yeah.
dead.
I did not realize
That's the
until
point.
Steve said, I didn't know we had
I-
to
Yeah,
December, but that kind of,
what we're doing now is deciding whether the city of Cosmopolis wants to continue to be part of the planning committee. But that doesn't mean that Cosmopolis is ever going to approve the plan. It just means you're gonna be on the committee. You're gonna keep working on it. And then when there's finally a final plan, then each city council has to approve it. And then it goes onto the ballot.
Is that by December?
Yeah, it would have to.
If they want to get it on the ballot in February.
Yeah.
yes.
That's the deadline. The discussion of October was because some councils cancel meetings in November and with everything that the earlier a plan is approved, the better, but it has to be before. It's like the second Friday in November. It's a weird date, that one compared to the other ones.
I guess with. Kind of my way of looking at this thing from the get-go was if we're gonna be in. I wanna, if we're gonna be a part of it, I wanna be at every step of this thing, not come in later. Because I know we're only gonna be 1 out of 3, but at least we have somebody at the table. To have a voice, because my biggest thing is I give a shit about the RFA. I care about the city of Causey and this building in particular of what this thing's gonna look like. In 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now. So that being said, that's why I kind of ramrodded for a meeting tonight was, let's get our questions together to move forward or not. But I'd like to have a voice at the table. I think we deserve to have a voice at the table. And if we had a voice at the table, what if in 2 years from now? We decided this ain't working for us. Steve, you can leave the RFA, am I correct? So,
Yeah,
Yes,
Doesn't have to be voted on to get out of the RFA.
yes, it does.
yeah,
But people are like,
but by the people.
For the people.
It's the same as like some of you are gonna annex in part of a city or a school district or help, same thing. Yes.
Harry, again, so I'm trying to see a downside to this. We've been contracting with Aberdeen for 9 months. They're not gonna do that indefinitely. I don't see any progress behind the scenes. What, if we hadn't been invited to the table for this RFA, what was the city's plan for a fire department? I mean, there's nothing even alive.
Another way to ask that is, what's the alternative right now to an RFA? And the alternative is that we would be contracting with Aberdeen for the RFA. If Aberdeen will approve it. And we're gonna pay more, we're gonna get surcharged, and we're not gonna have the seat at the table. And it's going to be one step closer to merging with Aberdeen.
That's what I'm thinking.
We're gonna be
And so-
one step closer to not having a seat.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, and so why wouldn't we wanna get in? Like Jim said, on the ground, where we have some decision making. Because I don't see any alternative, we're not gonna build a volunteer fire department on our own in the next 2 years. I just don't see that happening, I wish I was wrong. But I think if we're gonna do this, we need to, rather than contract with the RFA or with Aberdeen, we need to join That's my opinion. And that's what I would like to see happen.
Joe Schminsky. All right, there's discussion why we don't have a fire department. And what's being done to try to get one back. Has anybody got the answer? It went awry, and it's been awry, and here comes an RFA where we get sucked into it, and nothing's being done about our community. Or the volunteers.
We've got 3 guys, 2 actually that completed all their paperwork. They're gonna be coming up before the council for confirmation at the next meeting. There's a 3rd guy going through right now. We've got a total of, I think, 5 or 6 information forms that were filled out and returned, but haven't proceeded with their paperwork yet.
Has anybody contacted the people that were in the department? And what's their discussion? Why did they leave?
That's
Can somebody give me an answer?
I mean, that's a lot deeper kind of discussion. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to speak out of turn. Those that resigned and stepped away, they had their list of the reasons in which they stepped away. And I feel like we've addressed most of it during council meetings and during meetings with the association and with the department, and we've gone back and forth. There's a lot of disagreements, and we did not come to a place where they agreed with the city's stance on some things, and so they stepped away. I mean, we've had discussions with them, many of them, I can't say all of them, about possibly coming back. There's been some interest, but they're not jumping back. What's keeping them away now is their own personal thoughts. But Steve,
So
more than-
first off, this is about the RFA.
correct.
So keep it out of track.
Yeah.
And this is just there's one point that Mr. Schumacher made that I'd like to touch on. So the pay, are we gonna pay twice? While the RFA is being formed and there's a year plus of taxes that have to be collected, the city still has to fund, all the cities still have to fund their fire departments. They still have to fund the program. So you are gonna pay twice, in the sense that you're gonna be paying property taxes, and the cities still have to fund the operation. So that is something that you do have to consider in this whole thing. But I think as far as tonight goes, what the point is, and the reason that Councilmember Anson was concerned with is, do we stay in the fight, do we stay in the planning process, or do we not? And if we have a vote, once there's a written plan, if the council has a vote on that, then I would urge the council to stay in the planning process until we get that written plan, and then the council can then vote on that plan. After the plan has been approved by the council, then it would go to the vote of the people. So my vote tonight, my sense is, stay in the planning commission, please. As far as value to the community, there is, you're not gonna beat the volunteer fire department as far as value to the community. We have 2 years roughly, we have a big gap to fill. We can lessen our cost to the city of Aberdeen with the staff department. We can lessen our fees and everything we pay with the volunteer fire department. There's still gonna be some increases that need to happen to get our volunteers back together. My suggestion, and my suggestion all the way along, hasn't changed. We need to have the similar style meeting to this, a town hall forum, where everybody can come and be represented, and those firefighters that were in there can talk about the grievances that were on the table and why they left, and what the city did to either A, rectify them or not, and that should be held in a public forum, specifically for that. That's what should happen. You should have a public forum for your volunteers and the city to come together. I think we can bring it back. I think we can bring back a very vibrant volunteer fire department in Cosmopolis, again, to get us to bridge that gap for the next couple of years until we get an RFA at which point we would have a group of volunteers that would participate in that RFA. And we would be training with Aberdeen and Hopeland like we always have in the past. So that's the best of the best. It's going to cost us more over time, we know that. But we can mitigate those costs by having volunteers come to the table. Thank you.
Has there been anything placed in the plan on if Cosmopolis was to move forward and participate that would respect the current membership of the Cosmopolis Fire Fund? Making sure that many people continue going forward. Yeah, so making sure that the current volunteers that are active on the books, when the RFA takes place, they continue to stay active on the books. They are now volunteers of the regional fire board.
I don't know what standards as far as a resident volunteer program, or if there's a different standard that they would have to meet, but in discussions, the intent would not be to just kick everyone out. They would try to work with them as possible, but I don't know as far as the standards
In
level.
the original plan, what was stated, it wasn't written on paper, but what was stated was the volunteers would be accepted in the program until they retired, but they wouldn't be replaced. But I think part of the plan should be a robust volunteer arm, because your volunteers all over the county are what are the right people to be the paid professionals down the road. They should be your farm lead. That's where you find the hitters and the pitchers that you've got in the community that want to be staff firefighters. This is the way it is. So robust volunteer fire department in every community is the best we can hope. We can set the example, but you have to come back to the table and you have to sit down and look at all these things, and some truth has to come out. And you got to keep score and say, well, we were wrong here and we're right here. And so you got to have that before you're going to get everybody back to the table. And we got to stop the nitpicking BS that goes on. And we have to focus on what is the value that the fire department brings to the table, and what the value is that we provide for the citizens, because it's far more than just going to a house fire, and it's far more than just going to a neighborhood. It's about education of the schools. It's about being proactive in kind of things. Largest planning. You know, it's marketing. So the one thing that I do have is.
I just want before, can I pause you for just a second? I don't want to stop your thoughts, but I just found the thing that Cosmopolis volunteer staff will remain intact and be integrated in the staffing and response plans. So that answers it.
But only that until those people retire, then they wouldn't be.
That's nothing
It
in
doesn't-
there.
it doesn't say that.
That's-
Say that, but what was said at meetings of the board and everything else. So the other thing.
We
that I-
didn't have
Yeah,
meetings
that,
with
well,
them support.
we were not involved with that at all, and so we have
The
no,
other thing I want to bring up is,
yeah,
I
I don't.
asked for the minutes of the fire meetings, of the fire committee meetings.
Okay.
Okay. They are not available. There was one set-
Which minute? All the minutes or last month's?
All of them. So
Okay.
there was some on Aberdeen's website and they disappeared. So the minutes of your planning commissions that you guys meet, those should be made available to the public, both audio and written.
We don't control that at all. We're not the secretary, or we don't run the Zoom or anything. So it's not that's. I agree that those should be available. I don't know how,
You talk to the people that do control.
but
My
we
point
don't,
is-
like, I'm not as part of the managerial. I can bring that up and say, let's make it more accessible. I don't know what struggles you've had getting them, but I don't know what
That's always been
struggles
my
you've had with it.
complaint, Is this lack of transparency that needs to exist in these meetings.
So you haven't gotten a copy yet?
No. Neither has any of the council members, other than the two council members that have been there. None of the other council members seen them either because they're not available. My point is that all these meetings should be available by audio. They should be available written minutes so that people can be informed. And as somebody that works in the media, I would think that you would understand that.
I don't have
Evident-
any control over that. And again, that's not, like, I don't have any control over where the minutes get posted on the City of Aberdeen or City of Holcomb's website or the
Here's a
secretary.
suggestion. If
I can,
Cosmopolis
I
City
can,
Council
I can
were to
talk
vote-
to him.
If Cosmopolis City Council were to vote to continue to stay in the planning phase, I would hope that they would put a little paragraph in it that says, hey, look, we want these minutes available to our public.
Right. You can put your minutes on our website.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, people need to know it, you know. People need, the more information, the better.
I mean, tonight, honestly, Steve Johnson solved a big issue. If Cosmopolis has an opportunity to vote on a written plan before we join the RFA, keep planning, get a written plan.
Well,
That way we all can submit our information to that plan. And we can lobby for volunteers, and we can lobby for our city, and we can lobby for all those things.
well, now that you mentioned me, I'll tell you that I have all the minutes, probably, for the last couple of years, and they don't say a lot.
So for the last
They're
two
like,
minutes-
they're
the
like
last-
one page usually.
The last two meetings,
Yeah, we don't,
you don't have.
I don't have those.
You don't have any minutes.
She hasn't typed them as far as. I
You don't
know.
have any minutes from when Cosmopolis has joined the equation.
Correct. But I was there.
Question for you, Steve.
Mhm.
Mark Collette. Wouldn't the lack of minutes be a violation of the Open Meetings Act?
Not if they're not just completed. yet.
Yeah, they just haven't been
There's no
typed.
timeline when they had to
Yeah.
be done. And we're not in charge of
Yeah.
that. That's being held or done by the
Yeah,
city.
you have to,
The city also does.
Pardon me?
It's like,
The first meeting.
We don't do them. The
Yeah.
City of
I know,
Holcomb
but
does
here's
those.
the focus we have of who's doing it. We don't go to those meetings, you guys. go to them.
Yeah.
The next meeting is next Thursday evening.
yeah, and
Here.
she's supposed to
And
have
it's
the
gonna be in
minutes
the
done
newspaper.
yeah.
and approved at the next
See, there
meeting.
was a reason. to-
It's at 6 or 7 PM,
6.
6
Yeah,
PM.
6 o'clock.
next Thursday evening here for the open to the public.
And there may be a public comment period. It will definitely not be this much
So they are
public comment.
transparent.
Right,
But I mean, if there's maybe a portion of public comment at the end, but it's not an open forum.
What was that date again?
The 22nd, September 22nd.
So. Steve raised questions about double pay. If he thinks he's got it figured out that there would be 1 year of double pay. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but isn't it true that if this passes in February, there would be an assessment of property taxes 1 year, but not a collection? The collection doesn't start until the following year.
right,
So there won't be an over,
right.
okay, no double pay.
So it's in the
I think-
interim,
I think what the point Steve is making is that the cities would have to maintain their fire departments during that year.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
in our case, we had to pay Aberdeen home
Mhm.
a month. that
Right.
year, but we wouldn't be paying all those other assessments. and
Correct.
property taxes.
That's right.
Correct.
yeah, and in the plan as it sits right now, the operation, if effective, the remainder of the effective year shall be funded by the funds budgeted for fire department services. So it would be everybody's budget. They would just work with and just start to figure out and combine as work together. Yes,
If I'm not mistaken, at the last meeting, they said when the RFA would take over, that they would then be responsible for all maintenance on the building. I don't know if you were here, Jim, when they said that. The RFA would be responsible for this building, all the maintenance, everything. So the city would no longer be responsible. There's a bonus stuff to the citizens. So they would cover that.
it's an act as if type of
Yep.
scenario.
It's, yeah.
Which time in that meeting is again, September 22nd?
September 22nd. There is, we do need I gotta check the rules. I mean, the reason that I'm on there and there's two council members is so we don't create a quorum
Correct.
at that meeting.
Yeah.
I believe that Stana is on her honeymoon.
It's being advertised in the newspaper.
Yeah, but,
So it'll, you could have a quorum.
The honeymoon is or the meeting?
yeah. I just don't want to get, I don't want if the whole council's there, if it creates an issue. I don't think it would, but,
Well,
yeah, no,
it's-
it gets a public meeting, so it
It's
doesn't.
gonna be advertised by all three
Yeah.
cities and how we advertise our normal meetings, so you just couldn't have the
You
other
couldn't-
two members
Couldn't have actionable
participate on the
discussion.
planning side. You could have them in the audience asking questions or
Yeah.
giving comments. Is that correct, Steve?
No, they should not be here. There should, yeah.
That's why I'm not an attorney.
Yeah. So, so I would say if you do have interest, I mean, Miles, I assume that you will be there, but I mean, if the other council has interest, kind of coordinate with Darren. That way we don't want to run afoul of any rules.
But they could participate on Zoom.
It's
Or
on
not
Zoom.
participate, but watch.
You can watch it on.
You can watch it, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I stand corrected.
Why were you talking about Open Public Meetings Act? Sending out the emails to have meetings, do those have to go out the way they've been going out? As a BCC to the other council? The way I've been getting emails about the meeting tonight was to myself, Darren, Julie, and Kazi Fire. The other council members, I don't see them on there. So I don't know if I say Thursday night's good for me. Miles doesn't know that I said Thursday night was good. Ray doesn't know I said Thursday night's good. Candace doesn't know.
Correct.
Does it have to be that way when you're just trying to schedule a meeting?
Because if you, any discussion where any decision is made, actionable decision, like,
To have a meeting?
there's a, it's a,
That's a decision.
yeah, it's a decision. So the whole point is that you all have to, so that way you can't have like a phone tree or Miles can't call two of you to talk about what you think about
Can we
something.
just do it and worry about it later?
No,
Really?
well, I'm not gonna, I mean,
That is the stupidest thing.
that's law though.
Yeah, but common sense. I don't know Miles is available Thursday. He doesn't know I'm available Thursday unless I call him, which I did. I called him and I called Candace and I says, hey, what are you guys doing Thursday? Oh, we're available. And then I had to call you to tell you I'm available Thursday and he's available Thursday and she's available Thursday.
Theoretically,
Theoretically, it's
Yeah.
stupid.
well,
Just
but
send it.
it's,
Just send it.
well, we're not gonna knowingly, and again, we're on recording, we're not going to knowingly break state law. That's. Yeah. Steve, yes.
So. The idea Matt, Chief Miller from Hopeman mentioned, so. So you have the RFA, it's approved, everybody's going forward. You have a year of tax collection that happens. Okay, so that tax collection that happens, that assessment that happens, goes to the RFA. For 1 year. January 1st to January 1st, that tax collected goes to the RFA. The city has to come up with the money to fund the fire departments during that period of time, and they don't get the benefit of taxes because they go to the RFA. Correct?
Steve, I thought
There's
that
a-
was.
Yeah,
When they voted RFA, then. The money went to them, but they also did the covering. Does that eliminate our bill to Aberdeen as far as EMS and fire service?
Not for 2023.
Yeah, it wouldn't for the
Or
period.
22, or well, 23.
No,
Yeah.
My point of double pay is you're collecting taxes for 1 year that go to the RFA entity that's being formed. But the cities still have to fund the
Mhm.
maintenance and operation of the whole thing until the RFA technically has money in the bank.
Right.
So
Yeah, in the, for example, Hoquiam would continue to have their ambulance utility fee on the water bill, and they also have a EMS levy. that the citizens of Hopeland will continue to pay.
So
Well, what about that? Probably doesn't pay that.
No,
Right, but we might have to.
well, you, EMS levy would have to go to voted people.
No, I bet for next year. Where is the city gonna get that 20,000 a month that they're paying now? Are they gonna look to us for it?
Their fire department has a budget. It would likely need to be adjusted to cover if it's for a full year, but the fire department has a budget that instead of funding operations directly within here, that money is going to Aberdeen
Okay.
instead.
And you could cover 2023.
But
There would have to be an adjustments.
Okay.
Yeah.
that money
that's
comes
already
from,
connected.
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
money comes from the tax assessment that's
It always has.
correct, but you're
Yeah.
gonna take for a year, you're gonna take that tax assessment
Out.
out, that goes to the RFA. So you have a year, you still have to fund the fire department and
Yeah.
everything. Because the city doesn't get the
The
benefit.
city
Not all
will be
the
down.
revenues, not all the revenues come in from taxes. You don't
Right.
get revenues from
Correct.
there. So
Absolutely.
how do you know that revenue from
And that's the
Cosmo
question.
isn't paying the $20,000 a month?
That's it.
I mean,
That's
it's not just like a one source. It's not just a one
Yes,
source.
it comes from the general fund.
Yes, yeah.
And so that hit. The general fund's gonna have to come up with that money, correct?
Mhm.
We already talked about a $40,000 loss to streets.
Yeah.
So now we have a whatever, if it's $20,000 a month, we continue to pay the average, we're talking some serious change.
Yeah, and that'll all have to be looked at when we go through the budget over the next
So.
couple
so
months,
the
but
benefit is have a public meeting and get your volunteer fire department back on track to cover.
But the volunteer firemen, the only one that was
We're not-
showing up at the meeting, any of the EMS calls.
well, we're gonna, I don't wanna, we're gonna, hey, hey. Order, please. This is something, this is an opportunity for you to talk to the council, for the council to share information. I don't want to get off topic. This is specifically RFA. I don't want to divert away from that.
So.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
My suggestion is when you guys meet with the RFA, you guys have a meeting, come back, have a workshop, so everybody's on the same page and they know what's going on.
Who,
Yeah, you know, and I'm not picking on Jim or Candace, they probably have no idea what you guys are talking about.
And one member's missing. And you said she got her honeymoon, but
yes.
she'll need to get caught up too.
Yeah, and she has been asking a lot of questions and is involved. She's on her honeymoon, but she's
Right.
still staying involved.
Good. Okay. So this is a planning meeting that's open next, so we can come and listen to what you guys do.
Yeah, and there's a Zoom
Okay.
link as well.
And it will be on the Cosby website.
Yes, I
Sure.
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should, it's not a COSI meeting, but I believe it should be. I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look.
That's where I think the minutes should be too. I mean, joining an RFA should not meld us into a non-city. I like Cosmopolis being a Cosmopolis for as long as possible.
I didn't read his message. She sent to Julie, said she was sending this Zoom link out.
Yeah,
It's early next week.
yeah, I was gonna say, I
Or
don't,
possibly tomorrow.
I definitely agree with Jerry, like, now that we know a little bit more tonight than we did before tonight. I think after every RFA meeting, we need to have a meeting like this. Now, whether it be, because, well, we're in September, if we're gonna vote a yes or a no on this thing in December, everything that goes into the plan, or we want in the plan, we've got a few months to get what we can in there or not get in there. We'll know if, I guess, if we're in the planning and things that we ask for are acknowledged, or if they're not, that's tells me how I would vote on it in December.
Cause we just
Either
had
we're gonna be
minutes.
welcomed into this thing, or we're gonna be like, oh, no, we're not gonna do that, we're not gonna do that. Well, that's the stuff I want to know as a council member, how we are being treated at the table. And I told, I think everybody that's sitting at this table tonight, how I felt after the last meeting. That I thought Cosmopolis citizens and the council was being treated like second-rate citizens. That, oh, you're lucky we're letting you into this. We've had 4 years to do this. We failed twice. We're not gonna talk about that, but you're lucky that we're letting you in. And by no means, did I walk away from the last meeting feeling welcomed into this thing. I was actually pissed and was like, I'm out. If they want us, then they're gonna have to acknowledge our presence. So that's my 2 cents.
Be treated as an equal partner.
Yeah.
I saw a hand. Oh, yeah, I knew I saw it somewhere.
So tonight, we've had these discussions, we've had a lot of questions and answers and stuff. The end result of this meeting is going to be what?
This tonight is an opportunity to hear more from the public and to have the council ask the public and talk and get more information that is available in order to kind of base your decision next week. That's not something we're not going to discuss how you're going to vote and things like that, because we can't make that sort of, it's not on the agenda or anything like that. But next week, there will be an option to say, yes, we want to continue, or no, we want to back out. I guess, so the council has already said that we're part of the planning committee. We're already on that. So realistically, we could make a motion to continue to be on it, but that's kind of a moot point. There would be an option to step away. So if there's not an option to step away, we just would continue on as we have been.
Yeah.
All right.
But we have more questions and comments, and from the emails and information that we've gotten from different people, got at least a feel of what some people's priorities were and I don't feel that I can't speak for the council or for the rest of the committee, but the concerns and questions are not like out of left field. These are things that we've been working on as well. We've had a very short time to get there, and if we continue planning, we'll present more.
So at the next council meeting, next Wednesday night, you would entertain a motion to step away.
I wouldn't, the option is there to step away.
So, but-
I'm not going to say like, I entertain a motion to step away. That's not that wouldn't be.
The point was, what, if all the meetings you've had, the council meeting, there had to be a vote, are you in or are you out? That's what.
The rest of the committee wants to know if the city of Cosmopolis wants to stay on, because they're at a juncture. If this goes out to a vote in February, there's not a lot of time
I agree.
to,
My point is-
I just want to finish though, Steve, that there is not a lot of time. If this was to go out to vote, which is their plan, the rest of the committee's plan is to put this out to a vote for the public in February. We are at a junction now. Essentially, cause it either is in or out. And yes, we could jump out in December. I think we're gonna have some frenemies after that. If we do that, because their plan is to vote in February, and if we do that, their plan. Hopefully that back button works really well in the Word document, because they're gonna have to go all the way back and take all the cause. That, I'm just saying, that's what's on the table.
And though, so I would prefer at the meeting, if there was somebody brought up a motion to continue on or to step away. That way it was a clear, this is where we're going. Whichever way the council decides to go on it, that is the way that the city will go, but it would be better if there was a clear, this is how we're.
And I completely concur with that. I think that's what should be done, some type of council action to be in, so people understand. And Mr. Wetzel, your point is exactly well taken. That should allow us to have more horsepower at the meeting, saying, hey, if we're gonna be part of this, we want these things in there. And then if you don't do what we want, then we're gonna back out.
And I think that's fair, that they need to know.
It's-
We're coming in to this at the last minute, and so I think it's fair that they want our decision.
What they're looking for is a positive vote, yes vote from Cosmopolis citizens to try to get them over the hump. That is what that's why Cos even brought in this.
Well, that's not
Yeah,
accurate
we're not
at
having A
all.
lot of votes.
Like, and realistically, without the benefit charge, it becomes a 50% majority. So if the benefit charge weren't on the other ones, at the numbers they got would have been a passage. Our numbers that we're bringing in are not tipping the scales either way. They, in no way is Aberdeen and Hoquiam looking to Cosmopolis to fix getting that over that hump. That's not realistic. That's not accurate. That's not possible. They're looking at, and we've discussed the volunteer quotient's always been kind of a thought in the RFA. We did not be a part of this process 4 years ago, I want to say, for reasons unbeknownst to me. But that conversation didn't go, but we were invited early on. They invited us back and this is where we're on now. But we're not the deciding factor. We're not the one that's going to get them those extra 14 votes or anything like that. Any of the discussions, we're coming in as a member of it, not as Aberdeen and Hoquiam, and then the little guy that doesn't make a big difference. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I listen to what Miles has just said about frenemies. I totally get that, which goes back to the first question I asked. Is just simply ask them. Can you pump the brakes on this a little bit? Give us some time. That would solve that problem.
And that could be something that would broached if we're on the planning committee. So it's, again, it's that double-edged. Yes.
But it doesn't have to
Will
be,
you join this, or just a verbal, or is this gonna be a written? I mean, if Aberdeen and Hoquiam and you guys go together, is it written down? That you are part of it, or is this just a verbal, yeah, we will join?
We are, right now is similar to a couple months ago where we voted to be a part of the planning committee to create a plan that would be sent to voters probably at some point. That's the intent. The planning committee creates a plan with the intent of it going to voters.
Sign into some contract, maybe there's something in there. that says
There's no
you can't go
contract.
back.
There's no contract. It's all, it's state laws dictate how we join and how we get out.
Mhm.
Yeah, that it's all in place. There's no like backdoor, you can't get out. Now we've got you.
Right,
It's
right.
just a matter of the vote of the council if we're in or out.
No, the vote, well, to be on the planning committee.
Okay.
The planning committee would then develop a plan that would then be going to voters. Voters decide whether or not the RFA is a thing.
But what I'm saying, next week, you vote to join, not just the plan, to join the RFA is what you're gonna be voting.
No, we're voting to either step away from the planning committee or continue to be on the planning committee. That's it.
in December, we would decide, am I correct? In December, we decide,
We have to decide, yeah,
we will have a plan in front of us. That we say yes or no to.
that the public would have access to see. That's when then it would be a vote to say, okay, we are sending this plan and this whatever the ballot language is. We're sending this to voters. That's what the next thing would be.
I got one more.
Yeah.
Why can't we take our city administrator? Get a committee. And look into the volunteer league. Take the rest of it out of it. You know? Take the rest, you can pick a committee just like any ad hoc committee. Say, hey, where can we go with this?
And there's nothing that stops the conversation with the administrator. Like, what do you mean a committee?
Committee, the citizens committee. You know. Just like, have meetings just like this one right now with the citizens, and say, what would you like to see? And where can we get our volunteers? Or what do we need to do to get them
I
back?
mean, we have the Public Safety Committee,
And who was that?
Miles, Stana, top of mind, I don't.
That's the two
that's
council
the two
members.
Council members.
Then it's usually myself,
Yeah.
Chief Stratton. And that's it.
I mean, those are available as well.
Do you have any meetings?
The public
There you
safety
go.
does, yeah, we've met probably twice monthly. Over the last 6-8 months, yeah, if not more.
Is there any? Well, they already said there's no minutes to this.
No, we don't
That's-
keep minutes.
It's not, there's not three councils, so it's not a,
I say comments at every council
Yeah.
meeting when we have a meeting.
Yeah, it's usually no report.
well, if
Not
there is,
from that-
Not from him, he's
Yeah.
not.
yeah, there's,
I talk every time.
So.
Yeah.
The question is about having a public forum. Like this, public forum.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
This all subject matter.
yeah,
This had nothing to do with the RFA.
Yeah,
so,
what we did for tonight is the RFA.
Yeah.
yeah.
You gotta have an option.
Well,
I mean,
I mean-
RFA.
Well, I mean, this is specifically a special workshop on the RF. We can have these discussions outside and we've had some of these discussions we had.
And I don't disagree with you. It is about the RFA, but the volunteer fire department here
Yeah.
is an integral part of the RFA.
I agree.
And so, I mean, I get your point. You guys, you're listening, this is when we start getting into that. You know, you just don't feel welcome. It's like, you know what? After the meeting, at the next council meeting, I would like to be put on the agenda. Please. For a discussion on a public forum for the volunteer fire. department.
That's it. That's, I mean, this public
I would
comment.
like to be put on the agenda for the next council meeting. I want to save the public record and I'll submit a letter to the city. I'd like to be put on the agenda to discuss a public forum for the former volunteer fire. department.
It's not really an agenda item. You want to have a discussion at the meeting or?
No, I want to have a public forum just like this. That way.
Noted.
This information is brought forward, can be corrected. And we can have, are we gonna put together a volunteer fire department or not?
We're trying.
Yeah.
The invitation's open.
Yeah.
Been all year.
You know that we're accepting applications.
But
Yeah.
hey,
But again,
It's the truth.
it's not the truth.
Well, then what?
so again, I don't want to get too far, like we can, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so again, we're coming up on, we're about, what is it, hour and a half, and that, I mean, you can reach out to us if there's questions and comments and things before the city council meeting, of course. And again, if you send an email to the entire council, it'll be responded and be like, talk to one of us, talk to both of us, talk to all of us, or ask that something gets sent out to everybody, whatever, however it works, whatever works best. I mean, take comments and we'll go from there. So, yeah, I will take, so, again, 7:38 and we will call the workshop to a close. Thank you.